So there's a new trend in digital games, which unfortunately the vast majority of people who play games now are digital games as well here. Yeah, and when it comes to digital games, this is why I try to avoid buying digital games as much as possible because you really don't own anything on a streaming service or digitally. You really do not own them. You know, for example, we talk about games constantly being delisted all the time, and Nintendo and also Steam is doing this as well. Are now creating a virtual game seller where you can sell games to people. And yes, it sounds cool on the surface, like hey, you can finally sell games with your friends. They don't have to buy it. But the fact that both Nintendo and Steam are doing this at the same time is quite concerning. Because we'll be too surprised if Xbox and PlayStation shortly after, and they see how successful it is with Steam and Nintendo doing it as well here. When you buy a digital Switch game, you only get one card that can be used in one single console. Activating another console requires the previous owner as well here. And you need to have, of course, I think you also need to have the Nintendo Switch Online too. So you have to have the Nintendo Switch Online. So of course you have to pay for that crappy service as well. You know, I remember when online and gaming was free. Okay, that's probably why PC gaming has gained so much popularity. The is that PC gaming online is still free. You don't have to pay extra fees, which is why I do really believe having to pay for online has kind of stagnated consoles as a whole, both PlayStation and Xbox as a whole. Can't borrow the game to someone else, but only one game at a time. You need to transfer it as well. It's okay. And also, Steam will have the same thing. So yeah, also Steam is doing it. It's like people are acting like and of course, people in the comments people are acting like Nintendo's these evil villains that are ruining the gaming industry. But it's really, and really, it's not Nintendo's fault this type of stuff is happening. It's really the gamers' fault. Let me explain. The fact that we have basically, abandoned, and it's not just gaming industry, it's also the film industry and movie industry as well, with streaming services, that we have basically abandoned physical games and physical copies, not, for digital copies and digital games or movies, they can be delisted and removed at any time. And I, along with many others, keep selling DLR, but unfortunately, more and more normies are being swayed away from physical media every year on both gaming and movies. Not really music, there are vinyl copies that sell, but most of those people who are buying vinyls are mostly collectors or stands of certain artists. Like, for example, Taylor Swift stands buying a million vinyls of one album. But, and Steam is calling it a family sale, which is ironic given the fact that the Netflix and Disney Plus are cracking down on this type of thing. Steam and Nintendo saying, hey, you can sell your games. It's perfectly fine. But the fact that both Steam and Nintendo are announcing this at the same time is kind of scary because the same people who are saying the same PC people are saying on Nintendo for doing this won't say anything about Steam, which I quite find funny. As much as they like to derail the Nintendo Switch Online service, you know who else does this type of stuff? Xbox and PlayStation, and no one rails on them for doing that type of stuff. Xbox introduced that type of stuff. I read Nintendo doesn't have microtransactions in games yet, or has woke ideologies like Dragon Age of Polygon as well. Here, here, but they're basically doing the same thing with Steam as well. Here, and also we'll probably get more about the Switch Virtual Cards later as well here. And also, you can sell the Switch Virtual Cards to up to 8 people. One person can play a game at a time. Unknown how this works here. Also, and also the Switch Virtual Cards is kind of like you're rolling a game out to somebody. So basically, the Switch Virtual Cards is kind of like renting a movie to someone renting. It's kind of like you're renting a game. You don't really actually own it. And if you actually like the game, so Nintendo Way is kind of genius because I think they're doing the 2 week thing on purpose. So if you like the game, you can actually buy it, okay, for yourself. Which I do think it's kind of genius, but again, I don't buy digital copies of games on Nintendo Switch. I have never really bought any games digitally on there. There, like I didn't unless they bring back the virtual consoles. I find kind of unlikely at this point. There is no real reason to buy digital games in the Nintendo Switch as well here. Also, the fact that we know that inevitably the servers for the Switch, the original Switch, is going to be shut down eventually, like the 360 was and the Wii U and 3DS was. And of course, I do think eventually the PS3 internet, if it isn't always shut down, will be shut down. Same for the Xbox One, kind of forcing the remaining people on those consoles to buy the new thing as well here. And yep, that's what this video here. Goodbye.